how do you know when you're ready to buy your first home?
Yeah. So, and what made me think about this is I was watching this new show on Netflix called How to Get Rich, and it's kind of a gimmicky title, but it's really just a show about personal finance. And they kind of treat it like a makeover.
With realty expert John Brodeen. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How about you, John?
Good. Hanging in there. How you been?
Yeah, good. My wife and I, we just got back from Banff.
Oh,
we were there
yeah,
all week last week.
Up in Canada, eh?
Yeah.
Banff, that's a pretty cool place up there.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Did you do anything real fun?
Yeah, we pretty much every day we were out, either hiking or checking, driving to some of the things you can go see, and yeah, it was amazing.
So if you think about, you look at the map and you go, okay, we could go vacation here, go somewhere, a lot of people are Florida or it's tropical. And you guys, the Brodeens, picked Banff of all places. It's just something where you always wanted to go?
Well, we both like the mountain vacations, and it's a nice time of year for that. The weather's, nice. There's tons of stuff you can go see and do. If you read on the internet, people say it's like some of the best mountain scenery in North America.
Sure.
I'm sure like Alaska's got it beat, but aside from that, it's pretty crazy.
It is pretty nice. And it's not that far away.
No, we drove up to Winnipeg Saturday the 20th, and then on the 21st we flew out at like 6 a.m. So we were checked into our hotel by like 10 a.m. Mountain time. So
nice.
It was wonderful.
So did you bring the kid?
No.
No.
We needed a little break. We needed to get away.
Thank goodness for Grandma and Grandpa.
Yep. Both grandparents, they split the time. So
and the thing is, when you have a baby like that, it's usually not very hard to find a babysitter.
No.
Grandma and Grandpa.
Especially the first one.
Yeah.
First grandkid.
Yep. Yeah. Wait till they get a little older and they start getting an attitude, and they're like my granddaughter, and it's a Sour Patch Kid, and and Grandpa changes his tune real quick.
Then they're sweet.
Yep. Say, now, we talk a lot about this, people living in apartments and trying to figure out, when is the right time to buy, and do you even need to buy a house, but your first home?
Yeah. So, and what made me think about this is I was watching this new show on Netflix called How to Get Rich, and it's kind of a gimmicky title, but it's really just a show about personal finance, and they kind of treat it like a makeover, where the host's name is Ramit, and he's helping out these like couples or single people, kind of taking a look at their finances. It's usually people who have kind of gotten themselves into some hot water somehow, and looking at where the problems are. And a lot of these people, so there was one person, for example, she was a young woman, single, and she had just bought her first place. She lived in California, and she bought a condo, and she was making decent income, but I think she made kind of an emotional purchase on this condo. She got a pretty nice condo, and it was basically causing her to be so house poor.
Oh, sure.
She couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So, like, he gives them some options. And so, like, in some cases, he does a nice job of explaining to people, like, you don't want to overextend yourself on your house. I think she was spending, like 40% of her before tax income.
Oh, boy.
On her house payment, on her condo payment, because she had a really high HOA fee. There's a bunch of issues. So he helped her out with some options. It's like either you got to earn more money or you got to sell the condo, or else you're never going to be able to reach any financial goals of yours. There was another couple where they were both making decent money, but they both had a lot of debt, like consumer debt, student loans, had like no savings, poor credit scores, and their big goal was to buy their first house. But in reality, they were not in a position to be able to buy their first house. It was more of an emotional goal for them.
Sure.
They thought that, buying a home means that you've made it.
Yeah.
But they were in no position to buy a house because they had no savings no savings for a down payment. Even if they could have gotten in something zero down, it would have been a high risk because they wouldn't have had the money to be able to maintain the property, make repairs. So he does a good job of saying it's not always the best decision to buy a house. Now, he's really conservative on when he says when you're ready to buy your first house. He says, the first thing he says is, you shouldn't buy a house unless you're prepared to live in it for 10 years.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's ultra conservative, though, because you've probably heard me say a bunch of times, like 5 years.
Yep,
And even 5 years is on the
to get some equity
side.
into it, sure.
Yeah. And you'll hear some people even say 3 years, but the main gist is that it needs to be a long-term decision. And he could be saying that because maybe he says 10 years and then that gets people to think like 6 years and then they're still making a good decision. But if you live in a place for 7 years, you're going to be great. You're going to have paid down a lot of the mortgage. You're going to have probably gained some equity through appreciation. So I would kind of disagree with him on that. I'd say if you're going to live in it for 5 years, you're probably
See,
set.
with me, I would go with the 10 years just because I hate moving so
Yes,
bad. I couldn't
yeah.
imagine moving every 3 years or every 5 years, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
get it. Yeah.
And, so I thought that was kind of interesting because that's ultra conservative, but he's much less conservative on some other things that he says. So he says that your monthly housing cost should be 30% or less of your gross before tax monthly income.
Okay.
So we can compare that with like what Dave Ramsey says. Dave Ramsey says it should be less than 25% of your after-tax take-home income.
Okay.
So when you factor in how much people are paying in income taxes,
Sure.
that's a pretty big difference
Yeah.
in percentage. And I probably lean, and like Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank,
Yep.
he says 30%. But that's also after tax. So you can see there's a pretty big difference
That's
here.
huge, yeah.
And Ramit even says you can go up to like 32 or 33 if you live in an expensive city. I can't really comment on that because I know the market here. I know Grand Forks real
Right.
estate. We're not an expensive city. We're not Toronto or New York City or LA or San Francisco. Or
Right,
something.
right.
So, but that's a lot of money. I mean, when you factor in how much you're paying for taxes, that could be, 40+% of your after-tax take-home income, where you're kind of like maxing everything out. So I wouldn't suggest going quite that high for people. Dave Ramsey also says that your house payment should be less than 25% of your monthly after-tax take-home income, and it should be on a 15-year loan. So that's
Oh, wow.
way more conservative.
Yeah.
And that's hard for people to pull off. Pretty impossible for people to pull off unless they're extremely high income. If they're in a expensive city,
Sure.
even in a place like Grand Forks, that's hard to pull off for your average person. You have to be earning a pretty high income.
Yeah.
But it's very conservative and very smart if you can pull it off.
Even before you get to that point, one thing you had hit on earlier, John, was about the couple, low credit score, things like that. Well, that should be the first thing you got to worry about. You think you've made it. Well, no, you're not even going to be close to getting out your first home until you get that credit score taken care of. But the way it's going nowadays and the numbers we throw out there, I mean, just having a good credit score is dang near making it.
Yeah, it is. Seriously. I mean, that's and like, so figuring out your credit score is one of the first things you really should
Yes.
do. And that's something that these people were definitely working on.
Mm-hmm.
But they had let some stuff go to collections. They had a couple bad marks on their credit score.
It happens.
And it's something you can totally repair, but
Yes,
it's going
you
to
can.
take some time.
I've
You can't
done it.
rush it. Yeah, exactly. It's so I found that interesting though, because their big goal of owning a home is they obviously wanted stability for their family and stuff, and they wanted a similar type of stability that they grew up with, but owning a home, you can own a home and have it be a great decision and be very responsible, and it can be an excellent financial decision for you. But if you're not in a position to be a responsible homeowner, it can actually be bad because you're kind of in charge of making sure that investment maintains its value and that its value improves along with the market. And if you can't afford to maintain your home, you're bad with making payments on time, you can get yourself in more trouble than you would have been in if you were just renting.
Right. Sure.
So it's definitely not for everybody. So we kind of covered how much you should spend as far as monthly payment goes on your house. Ramit from this show also said something I really liked. He said that you should save up 20% before you buy your first house, but you don't need to put all 20% down. So if you can make your monthly payment work by putting 5% down and keeping the rest in your bank account, that's fine to do.
Sure.
But it's just establishing that you should have some savings and that you shouldn't be bleeding your account completely dry.
Yeah, it just proves that you can
If you're going to
some
start,
money.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to start with very little equity, if you were to do a loan down payment, it's much safer if you've got cash in the bank. If you don't have cash in the bank and you're starting with very low equity, everything can be made safer with time. If you're going to be in it for a long time, things can work out.
Yeah, and I mean, let's face it. If you save 20% before you buy your first home, and like you said, only spend 5%, you still got that other 15%. But let's face it. I don't know how many houses you have lived in your life, but you might think it's turnkey and ready to go. But as soon as you move in, you're going to be doing something.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to change something. And there's nothing worse than buying a brand new house, possibly your very first house, and not being able to do what you want to it to make it your house. It's still, in my opinion, somebody else's house. It's just I'm living there now.
Yeah.
You know?
That's funny you mentioned that because, we ran into the same thing. You know, we bought kind of it was move-in ready where, it was livable, but it was, a little bit outdated in some aspects. And we thought we were just going to have it, exactly the way we wanted it within a year of buying it, and now almost 7 years later, we're 6 years later, there's still stuff that, projects. That,
well, it makes you feel any better. I've been working on mine for 17 years.
Yeah. But the thing is, you shouldn't be in any huge rush. Like, I wouldn't sell it with a project half done.
Right.
But if you can stay in it, you don't need to be spending, $40,000 every year for 3 years in a row on projects. That's such a huge expense. And that's all out of pocket, unless you're taking out additional loans. And then now those additional loans that you're taking out to do it, now is your housing cost more than 25% of your after-tax monthly take-home pay. So, it's something where it's fine to take it slow. And the other thing you realize too is you have these big plans when you move in. If something's a little bit cosmetically ugly, then you get in there and it's just where you live. Not every inch of it has to be pretty and perfect. You can do that over the long term. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be perfect right off the bat. I wish a lot more first-time home buyers would realize that. And I do the same thing when I was a first-time home buyer. I had these grand plans of how it was going to look and how it was going to be perfect. And you get caught up in that, like shopping mindset.
This reminds me of when I went to school for radio and television. My instructors, my teachers, advisors would always be, you just wait. You wait for 10 years. Well, all these things, and you would just shake your head like, yeah. People need to listen to guys like you because it's not your first rodeo.
Yep.
You guys are realty experts for a reason, and that's why more and more people, you might think you're ready to buy your first home, but it's not going to hurt to spend 15 minutes and talk with somebody like you, and maybe you could let them know. You might think you're ready, and you're really close, but there's so many things to think about.
You can. A lot of people have their head in the clouds, but they don't have their feet on the ground.
Sure.
You got to actually look at the nuts and bolts of things, and it's less exciting than getting in that shopping mindset.
And you don't want to rain on anybody's parade or shatter their dreams. But I tell you what, I'd rather have that dream shattered before I get into it and end up losing. Because it could go really bad in a really bad way. Things
always work out better when you have realistic expectations for something.
Sure.
And the buyers who take their time and try to. It's impossible for it not to be some emotion involved when you're buying, especially your first house. It's emotional. It's exciting.
Sure.
It's big highs, big lows. But the more you can kind of try to limit that type of thinking, I feel like the better result those type of people get.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. It's something where it's fine to take things slow, look at the nuts and bolts of it. Don't get caught up in I have to have this. I need this. I want it now.
Yeah, and buying or selling a house isn't something that happens overnight in the first place. I mean, it maybe has, but not very often. It's a process, and you might as well go through the entire process, and it just makes everything that much better.
100%. Yeah.
How does somebody get a hold of realty expert John Brodeen?
Yeah, if they want to become a client, reach out to me, 701-213-5428. I still have openings to be able to take on new clients. It's a busy market right now. A lot of people want to move. So get in touch with me if you want to become a client. Follow me on social media. I'm posting content almost daily. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, everywhere. So
you get around.
Yep.
All right.
Got to be everywhere.
Hey, I won't be here on Friday, but you'll be in good hands with Dale.
Yes. Yeah.
It's good talking to you, man.
Yeah, you too, John.
And take care of yourself. All right, there we go. That is your Berkshire Hathaway bi-weekly podcast. Realty expert John Brodeen in the studio today. He'll be back with Dale again on Friday morning at 10 o'clock. Till then, have yourself a great day.